Hey there, so I'm back with another video. It's been a week since I last made a video. I've been very busy with work this week. I've only got 4 more working days until I'm done for Christmas, so I think it's going to be very hectic 4 days for me this next week. But once it's done, then I can spend some time doing some more videos and preparing for the challenge, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm still trying to figure out what the first book is going to be. I think I know what it is, but of course I will let you know in due course. But for the time being, let's talk about another bad adaptation. Now, this one might cause a bit of controversy, I don't know, but it's my opinion. So if you think otherwise, then please comment, send me a message, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Just let me know what you think. Now, the film adaptation I'm going to be talking about today, not TV series, a film, is one which was hugely popular. I admit, as a film, I quite like it, but the reason why it didn't really work for me is because of the break from the source material. I'll explain a bit more in depth in a moment, but first you need to know what that film was. And the film was The Woman in Black, adapted from the book by Susan Hill. Now, the thing with this film, as a horror film, or a ghost story should I say, it really does work. I studied horror films for my media study A-levels. I was taught by a brilliant teacher, Miss Wisby, and for 2 years we analysed horror films. And so since then, I wasn't really fond of horror films before I did my A-levels. I never really watched them, and since then, whenever I see a horror film, I'm just constantly analysing it. I can't help it because I could just see, oh, when's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? This film genuinely made me jump out my skin a few times. It was really good. This is why I've got a copy. But every time I watch it, I am quite disheartened because it's quite different from the fantastic book by Susan Hill. Now, this is why I've put it as a bad adaptation. For me, a good adaptation is one that links to the source material. Okay, it doesn't necessarily follow it exactly, because as I said in other videos I've done, there are sequences that are put in, there are sequences that are taken out, there's characters who are slightly altered, there's sometimes you can have 2 characters in a book who are combined to be 1 character in the film because they're very similar. You know, it happens all the time. But the thing I really like is when you link to the source material. And although, as I said, this film was good, the link wasn't really there. So I kind of sat there still, even though I was jumping out my skin, quite often and such with this film, I was still sat there going, well, that doesn't happen in the book. And I find this book really interesting. I mean, I've read a few of Susan Hill's books, and I have to be honest, I haven't been all that impressed by them. But The Woman in Black really works, and I think that's the reason why it's got such a big appeal, is that it is genuinely creepy. And because I think also it's that thing that it was set in Victorian times, you have that period of time where you take out the modern conveniences and such, you take out the mobile phones, the internet, all of that stuff which horror films do tend to rely on more and more recently, to creep people out and everything in their films, and have various shocker moments and such, whereas this, you don't get that convenience. You basically have the darkness around you in a dark room, and you've got the candlelight, and that's it. You don't have anything else that can suddenly, buzz and make noise and cause you to jump out your skin and all this lot. So, in case you don't know what this is about, The Woman in Black follows a story now about Arthur Kipp, who, when he was a young lawyer, he was told to go to the house of Alice Drablow, who has recently died, and to attend the funeral because they were his company, or firm, should I say, was the law firm that she dealt with. So it was kind of a representative to go there, to be at the funeral. Turns out he's the only person there. along with this a man who meets him where she lives, and she lives in a place called Eelmarsh House, which is completely cut off by a causeway, so that during high tide it's completely flooded, it's cut off, and then you have to wait till the tide goes down in order to cross the road back into the area where she was from. And whilst at the funeral, he sees a woman there. She's all dressed in black from head to toe, and she has a wasted face, and he's a bit concerned about her. But the person who he's with didn't see her. And as time goes on, he comes to realise that this woman is actually a ghost who is haunting Eelmarsh House. And he's trying to figure out who she is, and he's told that in the town where she's from, that every time she is seen, a child dies. So it's all about him figuring out who this ghost is, doing his law stuff that he needs to do, trying to get out there as fast as he possibly can, and still, be creeped out and have to live in Eelmarsh House for this time period that he's going to be looking after all the, dealing with all these papers and everything. And as I said, it is genuinely chilling read. It is absolutely brilliant. Now, what this adaptation does is that it takes the chillness of it. You have, I think there's about a 20-minute section where it's just Daniel Radcliffe running around the Eelmarsh House, and it's silent, and you hear all the creaks of the house and everything, and you've just got candlelight and everything, and it is genuinely scary. It really creeped me out. So it caught the essence, the feel of the book, which I really liked, but then everything else was a bit like, oh, okay, right, oh, right, okay. So, for example, it didn't work. I mean, for example, Arthur Kipp, who's played by Daniel Radcliffe. In the book, it's many, many years later. He has married a woman, and he has 4 stepchildren, and it's Christmas Eve, I believe, or Christmas Day, and they're telling each other's ghost stories, because at that time in Victorian England they were absolutely obsessed with ghost stories and such, so all the children sat talking about ghost stories. And he won't tell them his ghost story, which is what the woman in black is. And he gets really angry, and he storms out when they keep on pressing him. Oh, Father, tell us, tell us, tell us. And so he shuts himself in his room and he writes it down, and the writing it is what is the book, basically. So Arthur Kipps. So in the book, when he's young and he starts on this, he is engaged to a woman called Stella. In the film, he was married to Stella. She had a son and died. So, yeah, he doesn't have a son throughout the course of The Woman in Black. So it's a bit like, oh, well, that completely scuppers the ending, because, spoiler alert here, there is a big sequence to do with Stella and a child that they do go on to have at the end of the book. I won't say any more than that, but it is a key scene. It's the ending scene of the book. So by having that kind of already happened, you've completely screwed yourself, basically. So I was just thinking, oh my God, how on earth is this going to end? Then you have the issue of the death of the children. Now, in the book, it's kind of when a child dies because of the sighting of the woman back, it's always a sudden illness or some kind of accident, something that's very quick. It just happens like that. In The Woman in Black, all the children, in the film, should I say, all the children kill themselves. And it's a bit like, okay, do I really want to watch, 3 8-year-old girls jump out of the window of a 2-story building? Do I want to see another girl of about 9 or something set fire to herself? Another one who's 6 years old drink poison. A couple of boys who are about 10 years old walk out into the sea and drown themselves. It's a bit like, oh my God, it was just so, it was quite shocking, obviously, because that's, you meant to go, oh my God, this is insane, this is awful. But still, it's a bit like, well, she doesn't make them do it. She causes an accident or something that kills them. So, yeah, it was a bit like, I don't know where this is coming from, and it's so odd. And then, yeah, the ending I was a bit perplexed by, because of the changes that they had made. It meant that the ending was just, in a sense, well, let's just say it, a bit naff. It left it wide open for a sequel, and of course they made the sequel. I didn't bother going and seeing it because, to be honest, even though the trailer did look really, really terrifying, and I'll admit I was a bit like, oh my gosh, when I watched the trailer, because of the way in which they ended the first Woman in Black, I was a bit, I don't know where the second one will go. They did things in this film that never even happened in the book. They have, this big thing of Arthur and the little boy linked to the Woman in Black going on this mission to try and find him, to reunite him with the goat, and you're like, okay, why? It's not, yeah, I kind of felt like it's not going to work. That's not how she works. Have you read the book? And and that led on to the final sequence, which I didn't like it. But as a horror film, I own a copy of the film because as a horror film, and because I analysed horror films for a couple of years, and so I quite like horror films now because of that. I like it as a film just by itself. If I detach my mind from the original book, I can gladly sit and watch this film. But there are times when I'll sit there and I'll just go, God, this is really quite naff. This is, compared to the book, the original Susan Hill book, I really, really wish that they followed this beauty. I mean, like, there's a quote on the back of this book here that says, this is his description of, he's in Eelmarsh House and he's hearing noises, and there's all to do with a horse and carriage that he hears, which when you read it, you really feel it, and there's noises also that he hears that's in this paragraph on this back of this book that they don't even do in the film. So I was a bit down. It left me kind of a bit downhearted when I saw this sequence in the film. But here we go. Just what I heard next chilled and horrified me. The noise of the pony track grew fainter and then stopped abruptly, and away on the marsh was a curious draining, sucking, churning sound, which went on, together with a shrill neighing and whining of a horse in panic. And then I heard another cry, a shout, a terrifying sobbing. So you can feel the marsh, the sucking, the churning. It's absolutely amazing, her descriptions, and everything that she uses, but they don't use that in the film. It kind of feels like they're trying to do kind of cheap horror sequences and such that just are a bit strange. The one character I really, really did like from the film adaptation, I have to say, was Sam Daly, who Arthur meets on the train on his way to the location where it's set. He meets her on a train and they become really good friends. And as time goes on, Sam becomes very, very important in Arthur's life, as well as during the time of the story in the Woman in Black and afterwards. So you kind of feel like he is a friend for life in the book and also in the film. But the way in which they ended the film, I kind of felt like, oh, right, so you're ending it like that. And that is what led me to not go see the sequel. To set it as being in wartime, Eelmarsh House becoming a home for children, when you've got this ghost who kills children whenever she's seen, it kind of just feels like, oh goodness sake, you're just doing this for the money. There's no other reason why. That really irritates me when filmmakers do that. If it had linked more to the source material, then I probably would have been tempted to go see it, but I didn't have the heart to sit there for 2 hours in the cinema, pay money to go see it. I really didn't. Unfortunately, The Woman in Black makes my bad adaptation list. And as I said, there's going to be people who'll disagree with me or who will agree. But please, if you've got any views on this, then give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you want to leave a comment or send me a message, please do. I'd love to hear what you think. And I'll be back soon with I've got a couple of other bad adaptations that I've been thinking of I'd like to talk about as well. So I'll be back soon with one of them. So see you soon.